Okay, so welcome to Brainworks Education Geography Field Project Edition. So today I want to introduce you to how you're supposed to write an adequate geography field project. So the geography field project introduces students to research methodology. When we're talking about the scientific method, it's a way in which we are able to answer scientific questions, and we use a well-structured process. So this structured process involves you looking at your environment, identifying an area of interest, identifying a problem, and finding ways or solutions around that problem. So I really like the geography field project because it introduces students to research methodology which you are going to apply when you go into higher education, be it a college or a university. So let's get right on to it. So when it comes to geography field projects, you can either use Microsoft Word or Google Docs. I personally like to use Google Docs because it helps me structure my research projects. As you can see on the tab bar 1 here, it helps you to even structure your headings so that you can make a table of content at the end. So I want us to talk about a standardized method for our cover page. So we're going to start off with the cover page. So your cover page should be simple, it should be elegant, it should be standardized. You're not supposed to start adding weird page borders, weird Christmas trees to make it look attractive. That won't gain you any marks. So your cover page should be very simple, it should be very elegant, it should give a detailed description of your project topic, your name, and a few other details. So if you look at my project cover page, you can see that it's very simple. I included this header here, this logo, the Zambian logo here, One Zambia, One Nation, under ECZ. You can even include your ECZ logo or even your school logo. Then Ministry of General Education Regimen General Certificate of Education Center. So what qualification are you getting? So that's what you can put there. Then you can also add your title. So my theoretical title for the purpose of our discussion is on waste management in Mutendere. And make sure that your research title consists of about 12 words, not more than 12 words. You can make it a single sentence or you can break it into 2 sentences, but it shouldn't be too long or ambiguous. So waste management practices in Mutendere, focusing on their geographical, environmental, and economic impacts on the community. So this title is very much comprehensive. Then please don't forget to add your details as well as the name of your supervisor. Then at the end, you can say a project proposal submitted to the Examination Council of Zambia in partial fulfillment for the requirement of the award for General Certificate of Education. So this is a simple cover page that you can use. Very simple, easy to print out. It's not ambiguous. It doesn't have weird Christmas tree diagrams that people, or weird borders that people try to add to make it look attractive. Scientific writing is not about making things look beautiful. Scientific writing is simplicity and elegance in the way that you write. It's the quality of what you've written as opposed to how you've decorated your structure. So let's standardize the way in which we come up with a proper cover page. So these are the things that I want you to take note of in terms of an adequate, proper cover page. So before you add to your table of content, or at least your table of content will come at the end, but Google Docs, you can predetermine and use your headers, but before your table of content, page 2 will now talk a little bit about declarations, your acknowledgements, the people that you want who actually aided in your research. So you can put a declaration here that this work that you've submitted is your own original work and it's not plagiarized. Sometimes when people are marking your geography field projects, they can encounter replicas, and those replicas can actually make you lose marks. So it's a good thing that you have to use your own words, be unique in the way, and put that declaration saying this is my own original work and it's non-plagiarized. Then on acknowledgements, you can add the people who actually aided you with this research, with this geography field project. It could be your research supervisor, it could be some financial assistance you got from your spouse or your parents. So this is the acknowledgement section, and you can also add some form of dedication, which is optional. Like this project is dedicated to this. This is very much optional. Then your table of content will give a detailed summary of the contents so that someone will be able to locate what you've written and at each individual page after you've added your page numberings. So I haven't generated my table of contents yet, but I use the headers to generate a preliminary table of content so that I can show you how a proper table of content should look like and what it should contain, and mainly focusing on the specific chapters. So you can divide your field project into 6 or 7 chapters or so, making sure you clearly state the significance of each and every chapter. So the first chapter here, chapter 1, could be introduction, telling you your background, your aim, specific objectives, research question. As in your background here, it's also important that you add in an introduction and a literature review here in your background. Mostly your geography field projects will be qualitative research in nature. When we look at qualitative research projects or field projects, usually the literature review section is fused in with the introduction. But if it's a more advanced study, especially a quantitative type of study that you're going to encounter in higher education, your literature review will be its separate chapter. So your literature review will, let's say, to be chapter 2.0, and your literature review will have very detailed headings, and it will be at least 4 to 6 pages of the overall dissertation or the research. But this is a field project. It's a qualitative descriptive study in nature. So your background will have an introduction and a literature review, and you're going to review all the relevant literature that you're going to encounter, be it books, be it articles. Please, Wikipedia is not literature review. You only review literature using books and peer-reviewed articles. So you have to use your local libraries to look for books, or you also have to go on the internet and go on resources like PubMed or Google Scholar using keywords in your research in your project, and you can find key sources of literature. So this is your chapter 1, your introduction. Here, you're going to describe your study area in chapter 2. Then in chapter 3, you talk about your research methodology. Chapter 4, you talk about your findings. Chapter 5, you're going to give a detailed discussion, and then you're going to conclude your research, and you're going to add your references and appendices, and you're going to put in some pictures, figures, if you will, that can actually help. Here on your appendices, you can even put your supervisor's curriculum vitae. So you can say the name of my supervisor was this, you can add that. You can also attach the questionnaire template that you used. You can attach some police reports that you got to survey a certain area, some permissions that you got. Those are the things that can actually validate the overall strength of your geography field project. So let's analyze each and every chapter, and we're going to analyze each and every chapter using our research or our project topic here. So our project title will be Waste Management Practices in Mutendere, focusing on their geographical, environmental, and economic impacts on the community. So let's dissect this research project and see how we're supposed to come out scientifically. Okay, so we're going to start with the introduction. So the first chapter, chapter 1, it becomes important to talk about the background. You know, you're in Zambia, so talk about Zambia just a little bit, highlight its significance in Southern Africa, describe why it's important for you as a geography student to understand geography in Zambia. Then afterwards, you can introduce your problem statements, which is waste management in Zambia. You have to talk about it in a fair amount of detail and say why it's actually a problem in our background. Then in your background, you can add a separate heading called literature review. And in your literature review, this is where you now talk about waste management on 3-tier levels. Level 1, you talk about waste management at a global level. So we usually structure our literature review in 3 layers. First, you talk about the problem internationally. Then you talk about the problem regionally, being in sub-Saharan Africa. Then you talk about the problem in a local manner. So what's the problem in Zambia? And then you localize it to your area of interest, your study location. And your literature review has to have in-text citations. In-text citations, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot have a geography field project which you just say you've listed out your references. Your references have to match your in-text citations. So if you say, the review provides a theoretical and empirical basis of understanding waste management in Mutendere and highlights key gaps that this study seeks to address. If you found a research article that supports your statement here, you have to put an in-text citation. So you can say, maybe it was a book or a publication by Mulenga. So you can say, Mulenga 2010. And it will be bolded like that. So this would be your in-text citation that has to correspond to your reference list. So these are the things that have to come out in your background as well as your introduction. So you now tell the reviewer the aim. So what aim are you trying to achieve? So this is where you now have to state the primary aim of the project. And in our example, we're looking at waste management. So our aim will be to analyze and understand the waste management practices in Mutendere, focusing on their geographical, environmental, and economic impacts on the community. So this is our aim. In order for us to understand our aim in more detail, we have to provide specific objectives, which will later feed into the research question, because it's the objectives that we want to achieve. And you always have to make your objectives SMART. So in research methodology, we use SMART. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So when you're designing your specific objectives, they have to be SMART. So these are the types of specific objectives that we are trying to achieve in this specific geography field project. So specific objectives, you say, to identify and analyze the types, sources, and quantity of waste generated in Mutendere, to assess the current waste management practices, including collection, disposal, and recycling methods, to evaluate the environmental and health impacts of improper waste disposal in Mutendere. So you can see these, we haven't listed a lot of objectives because that could be time consuming. So I've only listed 3 objectives. You can at least list 2 objectives or 3 objectives, but not more than 5 objectives, because to achieve those objectives in your data analysis, you might take too much time. So be smart, limit your objectives to at least 2 objectives or 3 objectives, then feed into your research topic. Then feed that into your research question. So how will these objectives be answered? You have to use your research questions here now, which is now an inverse of your research objectives, trying to answer your research aim. So you formulate questions that the project will actually seek to answer, which feeds into your aim, feeds into your objectives. In reference to the project that we're looking at on waste management, questions could be, what are the main types and sources of waste generated in Mutendere? How is waste currently collected, managed, and disposed of in Mutendere? What are the major environmental and health impacts of improper waste disposal in the area? So you've generated your research questions like that, based on the specific objectives, aim, and your research question that you're trying to answer. For this study to be valid, you have to show the person reviewing your work the significance of your study. At the end of the day, what are you going to achieve? Are you going to add on to the body of research? Are you going to try to add measures of infectious prevention and control, hazard management? What contribution, what will be your significance of your study? So in the waste management study, the significance would be, this study is significant as it highlights the waste management challenges in Mutendere and their impact on the environment, public health, and socio-economic development. By analyzing the current waste disposal practices, this research provides valuable insights for policymakers, local authorities, and community members to develop more effective and sustainable waste management strategies. So we now go on to the limitations of the study. Okay, so that was on the significance of the study. Then we move on to the limitations of the study. So here on your limitations of the study, most of the times our research topics are not usually perfect and we might encounter certain challenges. So on your limitations, you have to discuss the potential limitations encountered during the research, such as data availability, time constraints, and limitation of the scope. Sometimes you can even add some financial constraints because you are fully funding your research project. No one is giving you financials to travel to Siavonga to study tourism there. No one is giving you finances to print out your questionnaires and your surveys. No one is giving you money for printing out your geography projects. So these are some of the things that you can actually bring out as part of your limitations of your study. Then you can now go on to talk about your study site or your area of study. Where are you going to collect the data from? So you describe the area as well as its geographical location, because remember, this is geography. So in our Mutendere study, we can say Mutendere is a high-density residential area located in Lusaka, Zambia, one of the largest and most populated townships in the city, situated east of Lusaka Central Business District. You can give some coordinates that you can generate from your Google Maps. You can localize it, or you can use online sources, and you can also give the boundaries to just show that, okay, this is my study area. Here you can even put a figure if you want. So you can you can use your Google Maps to actually pinpoint, and you can paste that map on your location. At least it will show that, okay, this student has made the use of map reading knowledge and they are adding it into their field project. It could be interesting if you did that. So chapter 3, you now talk about how you're going to conduct your research, which is your research methodology. How are you going to collect your data? And usually in data collection, we can use two types of data. You can use primary data, which is the information that you're going to gather yourself as part of the fieldwork. And you can use secondary data, which is information that you get from previous records or pre-existing research methods. And your invigilators, your people who are reviewing your geography field project, want to see a good balance, but in fact, they really want to see more primary data because they want to see that the student actually put in effort to collecting data themselves than you completely relying on secondary data. Then you can explain the data collection methods that you've used. Are you going to use detailed interviews, transcribe and translate those interviews into your local languages and put snippets of your interviews? Are you going to use surveys? Are you going to use questionnaires? Are you going to use different types of field observations? This is what you're going to describe here on your data collection methods. Then you justify your sampling type. Are you going to use random sampling? Are you going to use stratified type of sampling? And you justify why your population size and why you've chosen that part of your demographic. In data collection, in statistics, we use a principle called inferential statistics. It means you cannot collect data of the entire population, but what you can do is you can collect a sample from that population and try to make sense of the entire population. So your sample will be a reflection of the entire population. So that's what's called inferential statistics, and it has to stand out in your project idea. Then here, this is where you're now going to talk about your data analysis. What type of statistical tools did you use to analyze the data? And because Your studies are qualitative in nature. They are mostly descriptive studies. So your data analysis will include more descriptive figures. So here, that's where you're going to put your pie charts, your bar graphs, your histogram, some scatter plots here and there, because this is a descriptive sort of study. You're not going to use something known as inferential statistics, where you now have to do a lot of computations. The main idea is you are trying to explain how you used your scientific method and how you're going to present your scientific method in your data analysis. After you've put your bar graphs, your pie charts, your histograms, you have to interpret those findings. So this is where your research findings are going to be, and you're going to state those observations. Then you're going to conclude in a good amount of detail. And as you conclude, you can also put in some relevance of your research and also some recommendations. So if it was waste management in Mutendere, you can put some recommendations to direct policymakers, local authorities, or even the community. And your conclusion should also include a call for action, a call for action, a call for social behavioral change in your research. And of course, finally, your research can include references, and your references should be in Harvard style. So Harvard style is author, date, then the journal article or the book that you're trying to reference, then publication at the end. I have seen research projects with a huge literature review, but with 3 references. That shows plagiarism. 3 references, 6 references, no in-text citations. The markers are actually seeing this. It actually shows this student maybe just bought this geography project from someone and they didn't review it properly. So it shows a great detail of plagiarism, or they just asked the teacher and they just got a past geography project, edited the name, and it just ends there. And then you are, as a student, you'll be like, wow, I'm going to get good marks from this geography project. It comes out and you just see that you've gotten a 4 out of 10. And now you're going to start scrambling for marks in your paper 1 and paper 2 to bridge the gap. So if you write this geography field project very well, you will get the proper marks that you will need. And you can call for consultation. We can, here at Brainworks Education, will help you write your geography project. If you already have a geography project that has been written, please, you can send it through for editing and proofreading for 50 kwacha. If you have a geography project topic that you've described and started developing, you can send it for a full project writing, full project headers for 150 kwacha. If you are starting from zero, you don't know what you're going to do, you don't know the topic that you want to do, and you want Brainworks Education to assist with the entire conceptualization so that you can go in the field and collect data, we can do that at 250. If the deadline is tomorrow and you need something that is urgently done, a project that can be conceptualized, a project where we can collect data together and come up with something that can be done within 24 and 48 hours, that would be 500 kwacha. So I hope you enjoyed this video on Geography Field Project. This has been Brainworks Education, and good luck in your exams. You still have time to actually make a difference in your life. So guys, this has been Brainworks Education. Thank you very much for listening.